everyone, welcome back again. Traditional file processing is an older approach to data management where data is stored in separate files rather than in a centralized database. Each application program maintains and controls its own files. For example, a payroll system and an inventory system might store their own independent data files, even if they share some related information. Data is usually stored in flat files, such as text files or binary files. These files do not provide built-in relationships between data elements. Unlike a DBMS, there is no centralized control mechanism managing all data access and consistency. This method was widely used before database management systems became common, especially in early business computing environments. Traditional file processing systems have several defining characteristics. First, data redundancy is common, so the same data may be stored in multiple files across different applications, leading to duplication. Second, there is program data dependence. This means that file structures are tightly linked to application programs. If the file format changes, the program must also be modified. Third, data sharing is limited. Since each application has its own files, integrating data across systems is difficult. Each application defines its own file structures, which makes standardization challenging. And finally, security mechanisms are minimal. Access control is usually implemented at the application level rather than through a centralized management system. And despite the huge rise of DBMS, we used to use traditional file processing because it did offer some advantages. And even now, it is simple to design and implement, especially for small systems with limited data requirements. The cost is relatively low because it does not require expensive DBMS software or database administrators. For small single user applications, it may actually perform faster since there is no overhead from query optimization or transaction management. It also does not require specialized database software, making it easier for small organizations or early computing systems. Therefore, traditional file processing can still be suitable for simple, isolated tasks where data complexity is minimal. However, there has been significant limitations. Data redundancy often leads to inconsistencies. If data is updated in one file but not another, conflicting information may exist. Data integration is difficult because different applications store data in separate formats and structures. Security is weaker since there is no centralized access control system managing permissions. Backup and recovery must be handled separately for each file. And finally, because of program data dependence, any change in file structure requires changes in all related programs, making maintenance costly and time consuming. In traditional file processing, how data is organized within file significantly impacts performance. Sequential file organization stores records one after another in a specific order, often sorted by a key. It is efficient for batch processing but slow for random access. Indexed file organization uses an index to locate records quickly. This improves source performance but requires additional storage space for the index. Direct or hashed file organization uses a hash function to compute the storage location of a record. This allows very fast retrieval but may cause collisions that must be managed. Each method balances store efficiency and retrieval speed differently depending on system requirements. And to better understand traditional file processing, it helps to compare it conceptually to a DBMS environment. Traditional system use decentralized control where each application manages its own files. In contrast, DBMS systems centralize control. Data integrity in traditional systems is handled manually within application code, whereas DBMS systems enforce integrity automatically through the constraints. And traditional systems use application-specific data models, making sharing difficult. They also scale poorly when data volume and user count increase. And for these reasons, most modern large-scale systems have moved from traditional file processing to database management systems. And thank you for watching.